Hello, and welcome to AASA's Courageous Leadership Conversations. I'm Summer Krieg-Sauser, and today we'll be focusing on superintendent leadership in implementing an alternative school breakfast program. Joining us today, we have Superintendent Laurence Spring and Food Service Director Scott Stowell of the Schenectady City School District in Schenectady, New York. Larry and Scott, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you here. Larry, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about the Schenectady City School District.
Schenectady is a small city school district in upstate New York. Got about 10,000 students in a city that's about 65 to 70,000 in population. We've got a free and reduced lunch rate of about 80%. So food insecurity is a pretty significant thing within the city. And we've got a reasonably diverse population. About 30% of our students are black, 30% are white, about 20% are Hispanic, and a number of other nationalities. We've got about 21 different languages spoken in the district.
So Larry, tell us about the Schenectady City School District's equity initiative and how school meals fit into that agenda.
Well, one of the things that we found as I entered into the district is, we had a number of equity issues. We had some racial justice issues, we had some economic disparity issues, and we certainly had some disability issues as well. All three of those factors served as pretty strong predictors of how students would achieve and how they would be treated by the disciplinary system. And so as we gathered partners from the community to help us ensure that race, economics, or disability would not predict student achievement, food insecurity and mental health was a connection that continued to come up. And we found that students who were living with food insecurity had significant levels of anxiety that they were living with. That translated into depression, which manifests itself with irritability and aggression and things like that. And we had a number of very young kids who were exhibiting symptoms and were being diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of this chronic low-level trauma, this toxic stress that they were living with that was related to food insecurity. And so when we had this opportunity to look at breakfast in the classroom, we saw this as a way to begin to level the playing field for kids in certain sections of the city especially, to help alleviate some of that stress.
Scott, let's hear a little bit from you. Now, from the perspective of an employee, how has Superintendent Spring's equity initiative helped you do your job?
Well, certainly, over the years, I've worked with different leadership teams with the district. And until Superintendent Spring came, there was always one person, one group, one office that was trying to get breakfast available to all the students, and never successfully. When Superintendent Spring came and looked at the equity issues and felt that this was a very important thing that we move forward on, it happened. And by bringing in all the students and having them have breakfast, it certainly assists in the way the students behave, the way the students treat each other, the way the students learn. And as a food service professional, it's nice to see that something that our team provides every day is having a huge impact on the lives of the students of our community.
Wonderful. Thank you, Scott. Tell us a little bit more. What increases in breakfast participation have you seen in the district?
2 years ago, we were often having schools where we would have 20 to 30% participation for breakfast. After implementing the program, we had breakfast in the classroom for all of our elementary school students. So they were able to all enjoy breakfast. So we were getting closer to the 100%. And that increase translated into over 120% increase in our daily participation for breakfast. So it was huge.
And Larry, what has this meant for teachers and parents?
When we think about where our families are, we think about being able to have free breakfast and free lunch every day for families in Schenectady. That translates to a savings of about $1,200 a year. And in a Schenectady or a city like Schenectady with a fairly high foreclosure or eviction rate, that's the difference between staying in an apartment or being evicted over the course of the year. That money is absolutely critical. For teachers, it means that they don't necessarily have to buy big boxes of snacks on the weekends to help their kids get through the day. It means that they're not going to have kids tugging on their elbows at 10:30 in the morning, 17 out of 26 kids in a class saying, Miss, my stomach hurts. Miss, do you have something that I can eat? It allows them to get the day started off with a nice, calm, communal beginning, which is what breakfast in the classroom really does for them. And it gives the kids all this nice, great start to the day in terms of having their bellies full, having a nutritious breakfast, and just being able to get right through to lunch through that really critical morning period of instruction.
That's wonderful. So Scott, how has the breakfast program increased revenue in the district?
As we increase the number of breakfasts we serve, we increase the amount of state aid coming in and federal aid coming into the school lunch program. We've also found that as breakfasts increased, so do lunches. And I think it's because the students are forming habits as they're moving forward. And they have a meal in the morning, so they're going to have a meal at lunchtime. This also increased our accounts because we've seen lunches increase by 25–30% over the school year. And as the number of meals served increase, so does the revenue to the school lunch program, and that allows the school lunch program to purchase new equipment and upgrade facilities.
Now, to superintendents out there who might be watching and might feel skeptical about moving into breakfast in the classroom, what would you say to them?
Well, we didn't plan for breakfast in the classroom to have the significant impact that it did. We thought that this would be a good way to help alleviate some stress. One of the things that we do in our district is, we measure attendance amongst a number of other benchmarks that we look at, and we think about 90% attendance as being the tipping point. Kids who attend more than 90% of the time are likely to graduate. Kids who attend less than 90% are more likely to drop out. And Schenectady has a graduation rate that struggles to get up above 60%. Our elementary school kids have had attendance rate at about 54%. 54% of kids attending 90% of the time. When we implemented the school breakfast program, that went up to 99%. 99%, almost every single one of our elementary kids started attending more than 90% of our time. Our middle school kids, it went up to 92%, and our high school kids up to 88%. And so it really has shrunk the number of students who have chronic attendance issues down to a level where we can really focus on those kids. Their attendance issues are really something significant, and that for every other child in the district, they're coming to school regularly, and it's the school breakfast program that's getting them there. And so, any superintendent that's skeptical, I would tell them that any problems that are associated with it are workable. Attendance issues we know are very difficult to solve, and here's a really powerful way to get kids into school and ready to learn.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Larry, and thank you, Scott, for this insightful conversation on alternative school breakfast. And thank you for joining us today. If you'd like to hear more insightful conversations and innovative ideas on improving educational outcomes, please subscribe to AASA's YouTube channel. This episode of AASA's Courageous Leadership Conversation was made possible by a generous grant from the Walmart Foundation.